Sorry for my demeanor. little sleepy. Went a little party crazy. Anyway, we always love covering Ben Shapiro on here. I just noticed this since this LOL passports now display X as a gender option, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like, what could we possibly talk about for 14 and a half minutes? I just don't understand. Like, what could you possibly talk about? Who cares? Like, it's a gender X option. I get it. You don't like trans people, like whatever. But 14 minutes? Let's get into it.
Country in the West is now not reproducing. Every country in the West is now not reproducing.
We start off with a bangers, Ben. Would you like to explain why we're not reproducing, Ben? So there's multiple reasons why people aren't reproducing as much in the West. I don't know, if I want to be, I don't know if this is like a little bit of a spooky, not as many white people thing. Although I don't think Ben goes that way. I think he's more of a culture guy, I guess. But the reason why people in the West aren't reproducing is there's multiple factors. One is that women are in the workforce, and so women have less time or want to put less energy into having kids, because it can stall their careers. Another part of it is that people are financially strained because we have a broken class system, and our form of capitalism is fucking us. But fortunately, we also have this thing called immigration. So thank you so much for this hi, happy and no November. Thank you. Fortunately, we have this thing called immigration, and so we can offset our what you would call an aging population, because our population ages, and then we have a lot more people up at the older area and less people to work, and which shouldn't be as much of an issue as time goes on anyway, because technology's already taken away jobs, so who gives a fuck? But don't worry, because I'm gonna do my part, and I'm gonna have 4 kids. So don't worry, Ben. We're going to repopulate our white brothers. Sorry for that joke. Let's just continue.
Instead, we are focused on how do we basically live out our last days as a civilization in comfort. And one of the ways that we live out our days as a civilization in comfort is by lying to ourselves about fulfillment being found not in building, but in being. Right? Fulfillment is not found in having a mission or promulgating good values. Fulfillment is found in navel gazing, which is why the State Department
was navel gazing like belly buttons?
Has now decided it's very important that we issue the first third gender passport for non-binary, intersex, and gender non-conforming Americans. Now, you might think to yourself, wait a second.
Why are these two things like really relevant? Like at the end of the day, like who gives a fuck? Like what it's just like a weird, like what is it called? A whataboutism? Like we can focus on more than one thing at once. If we want to drive up population rates, you could probably give people more money for having more kids or something. But again, who gives a fuck? We have immigration to offset, but I don't really care. I'm not particularly concerned. But we're acting like the X on the passport is the reason why we have a dying population. I just don't understand it.
It is one thing for you to write on a college essay that you are non-gender conforming or that you are non-gender binary or some nonsense.
Sure.
Right? It's one thing to write that in your little Facebook profile. It's another thing for a governmental document which is specifically designated in order to help determine who you are to have you put that, because that's a subjective metric, right? It's like saying it's like putting on your passport that you're a Bon Jovi fan. Like there's no way to tell whether that's true or not.
Well, but who cares? Like, so this is one of those things where you really ask yourself, like, why does it matter what your gender is on your on any identification? So your passport, right? I'm going to assume. I'm going to assume that you have a picture on your passport, right? I'm going to make a reasonable assumption that there's pictures on your passport. If not, you should have a picture on your passport. But I'm going to make a reasonable assumption that there is a picture on your passport. So why the fuck does it matter what your gender? Like, honestly, this is supposed to be something that's identifiable to you. So it's just another way to identify you. But if you have a picture on there, who cares, right? It really doesn't matter. It's kind of almost irrelevant now. You have a whole ass fucking picture of you. Nobody has ever looked at my ID and been like, is this guy a male or a female? No. Now that might happen more because I know it gets a little weird with the gender X stuff. But you get my point. Nobody uses that as a way to measure anything. It doesn't matter. Now, when you go to your doctor, it makes perfect sense. I understand. Like, they need to know your biological sex. I totally get it because you could have different needs. But who cares? I don't know. Like, what is it? I imagine they would tell you, hey, I'm trans. or they would get like a whole. Pretty sure doctors pass on medical history, so none of this actually matters. It really just doesn't matter at all. That's really what it boils down to.
Nor is it relevant. Your interior feelings have no relevance to the question of how the government ought to identify you for purposes of knowing who the hell's in the country.
She's a picture.
But the State Department now feels it's very important for you to look at your passport and feel that your passport reflects your innermost feelings. We're a society that now treasures the inner subjectivity of feelings over the identification within reality.
I just want to know, like, Ben, what's the downfall here? Like, do you think that when you're using your passport, a TSA agent's not going to be able to fucking identify you? They're going to get so confused, their heads are going to fucking explode. Are you worried about robots not being able to process a third gender when we inevitably automate these jobs away? Because really, when you think about it, non-binary people are helping us. They're helping us not automate everything away. You're going to need a human to be like, what the fuck? This way we don't categorize people. I don't know. I'm just fucking rambling. But still, who cares?
According to ABC News, 4 months after announcing it would allow a third gender option for U.S. citizens on their passports, the State Department said Wednesday it has issued one.
Okay.
It's the first of its kind, denoted with an X for non-binary, intersex, and gender non-conforming U.S. citizens. The recipient is Colorado resident Dana Zizim. Okay, the reason I pronounce it that way is because the last name is spelled Zzyym. I have doubts that this is the original last name of this person. Associate Director of the Intersex Campaign for Equality and a client of Lambda Legal.
Okay.
I almost burst into tears when I opened the envelope, pulled out my new passport, and saw the X stamped boldly under sex. I'm also ecstatic that other intersex and non-binary U.S. citizens will soon be able to apply for passports with the correct gender marker. It took 6 years, but to have an accurate passport, one that doesn't force me to identify as male or female, but recognizes I am neither, is liberating, Zizim said in a statement. The agency is still preparing to make the option widely available for passports and other documents, such as the consular report of birth abroad. So it's not just for Americans, by the way. It's people who are green card holders, who hold a U.S. passport, pretty much anybody trying to get in the country. I want to reiterate on the occasion of this passport issuance the State Department's commitment to promoting the freedom, dignity, and equality of all people, including LGBTQI plus persons. Since
it's so weird. It's like, I understand being uncomfortable with a new thing and being like, that's weird, right? Because this is a little weird to me. But I feel like Ben has decided that this is weird, but it also, because it's weird to him, we need to figure out a reason why it's bad. Like, to me, I just go, okay, it's a little weird, but like, whatever. It doesn't negatively impact anything. But Ben needs to make sure that this doesn't exist. Because it's fucking weird. Oh, it's like devastating to his worldview. I don't really get it.
State Department spokesperson Ned Price in a statement. The heroism. The heroism. Right? We're just going to ignore the objective reality or what ID is supposed to do so that you feel better about yourself. The State Department, meanwhile, is saying that they're pursuing an end to gender-based discrimination with policies like this. I mean, not gender-based discrimination in Afghanistan, where women are literally forced into bags and then into the basement, but gender discrimination, like, for example, being asked to say whether you are biologically male or female on a passport.
I hate that. It's just like so dumb, because I get it. Like, other countries definitely need to work on their shit too. We reference the Middle East, sure. Doesn't mean we can't make strides as well, Ben.
President Biden and Secretary Blinken have made clear it is the policy of the United States to pursue an end to violence and discrimination on the basis of gender, of sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or sex characteristics. The Department of State is committed to promoting the freedom, the dignity, and equality of all persons, including, of course, intersex persons.
Gay. You know what I'm saying, guys? That's it. That's all I have to say. And then I'd move on with my life. This isn't a big deal.
So, the very important stuff. Now,
Okay,
is this,
how do you have
the mark of
11 more minutes left?
That is on the decline, or the mark of a civilization that is on the mend and ready to grow? And if you're worried about people
I just think it's a thing that exists. It's not really, it doesn't really matter.
getting married, having babies, a basic thing that is necessary is understanding that men and women exist. That sexual dichotomy exists in mammals. If you refuse to even acknowledge this, it makes it a lot more difficult to convince people that it's important to get together and have kids in stable families.
But by your logic, Ben, doesn't that mean that, so we already, like, I personally identify as a male, right? And I will generally date people who only identify as female, even if they're trans, whatever. But for the most part, I'm looking to have kids. So by your logic, people who are identifying with X, right? Okay, these people are going to struggle to find people to fuck. Okay. So by that, isn't that good from your worldview? Because then they won't propagate, and then there'll be less of them. Isn't that like the logic? They won't be able to teach their values. This is just logic. I'm just saying. Right? So isn't that a good thing? You know what I mean? Like, who gives a shit? Those people will die off. Now, I don't really care. I don't think that. I mean, I just don't give a shit. I'm just saying, by your own logic, it's a good thing. They're just going to die off because they can't propagate. But also, if you want more people to fuck, you should probably focus on or have babies. Probably focus on like our class issues that are holding people back from being able to have kids. You know what I'm saying?
But we as a civilization have decided to abandon that on behalf of higher falutin ideals. Like, can we make sure that no carbon ever enters the atmosphere, or at least pretend to? Right? We have to make sure that gender fluidity is.
What are you talking about, bro? Why is it bad to not pollute? Now I'm confused. I'm even more confused.
Prized above the survival.
I'm more confused than a non-binary person now, Ben.
Of civilization, right? These are things that matter. And to pretend that they're not in conflict is very silly. A civilization that embraces fiction about the nature of biological sex is a civilization that is doomed to move away from reality. A civilization that rejects truth on behalf of sensitivity is a civilization that cannot exist for very long in the real world. Reality always has its revenge. Okay, take just one indicator, really interesting piece by Susie Weiss over at Barry Weiss's Substack. Susie is Barry's sister. And it's called First Comes Love, Then Comes Sterilization. Rachel Diamond looks like most of the moms at the Park Slope Cafe where we meet. She's wearing a green t-shirt under a black corduroy jumper, sensible shoes, carries a smart leather bag. She sips a $4 iced chai, except the 31-year-old isn't a mom. And she never will be. You know, Diamond says cheerily, I never expected to be the poster child.
I don't care. You know what it would also be good for us to have more babies would be fixing the horrible food we have in America. Right? You get the FDA to crack down on sugar and fast foods and stuff because being overweight for men reduces their sperm count. For women, increases the likeliness of their baby not coming out or having like different genetic abnormalities in some capacity, or abnormalities in some capacity. You know, there's like a lot of things we could do before caring about non-binary people that would have a profoundly positive impact. You know, just being less fat would be more energy and a higher birth rate success or whatever. You'll see more babies. There's so many things we could do, Ben. There's so many things we could do. But, you know, if you criticize people's eating habits, they'll probably get upset with you. So too busy smoking cigarettes and fucking drinking alcohol, which is two other things that aren't really good for you. Shouldn't do those either. So
of sterilization. On the Aspiring Actors TikTok, one finds short, funny videos about Diamond's job working the register at a cafe near Union Square, and updates on her rescue pit bull, Rue, who has anemia. Mixed in are clips extolling her child-free life. They have titles like Sterilization Attempt Number 3 and Being Child-Free. We do know what we're missing. It's been 5 months since she had her fallopian tubes cut, not tied, and she has 64,000 followers.
Okay.
Growing up near Hershey, Pennsylvania, Diamond always assumed she'd have a family of her own. Then came college at Arcadia University, her political awakening away from her conservative roots and toward progressivism, and a therapist, who she then found online a few months after graduation, who made her realize that being spanked as a child was deeply traumatic, and that it made her fear authority figures like her father. She decided she never wanted to be one herself. Never, ever.
She never wanted to be a father? Holy shit.
Ever. Looking back, I never pretended my American Girl dolls were children. They were always my sisters, she said. There were little things showing that I wasn't preparing myself for motherhood. I think for me, it's as innate as saying I've always wanted to be a mom. Diamond is hardly an outlier, says Susie Weiss. Americans are making fewer babies than we've made since we started keeping track in the 1930s. Some women, like Diamond, are not just putting off pregnancy, they're eliminating the possibility of it altogether. Last year, the number of deaths exceeded that of births in 25 states, up from 5 the year before. The marriage rate is at an all-time low, 6.5 marriages per 1,000 people. Millennials are the first generation where a majority are unmarried, about 56%. They're also more likely to live with their parents than previous generations were in their 20s and 30s. I
wonder why millennials stay with their parents. So I moved out of my mother's house because just my mother. Although I will say one thing, I've noticed there seems to be a correlation between mothers and fathers staying together and more money being in the house and being able to pass more money on to their children. Also noticed this thing where we have fewer jobs left, and companies and businesses are getting more abusive in their tactics of cutting benefits. I got my benefits fucking cut when I was in my other job. I got lucky that I'm able to sit in my fat fucking ass and watch Ben Shapiro and laugh at him. I just feel like this has more to do with just how horrible our classism is. I just feel like gender is the last thing we need to worry about as to why we have fewer babies. How do you not think that this is a thing that we have a really big problem with? Is just people not really being able to make a living? No, I don't get it. Yeah, stay for next year. Your free food, bro. Fucking, I'm right with you, dog. I don't blame you, dude. American dream is dead. Buying houses is insane now. It's not easy. It's fucked up.
They also aren't having sex. The number of young men ages 18 to 30 who admit they've had no sex in the past year tripled between 2008 and 2018.
All you have to do is hit 30, virgin, wizard. Not kidding. Don't have sex till 30. You get fucking magic powers.
Cities like New York, where secular young Americans flock to build their lives, are increasingly childless. In San Francisco, there are more dogs than children.
Whoa, are you saying that in expensive areas, people have less babies? Ben, I wonder why. Maybe it's because because everybody in New York is non-binary, like me. I'm not binary, not having babies.
Any of this speak of a civilization in growth mode?
No.
It used to be, says Susie Weiss, that people wanted to make babies. Women, especially, but also men. That was a healthy young person's default position. Our existence depended on it. We wanted to do other things, of course. The great post-feminist challenge was how to have it all. But for an increasing number, the question now isn't how to have it all.
Another thing you could probably do is offer, and like I'm not a huge fan of universal child care at businesses and whatnot, or whatever. But that would also be a step up because a lot of women are trying to focus on their careers, and then they're like, oh, what are we going to do? How are we going to take care of our kid? It might help. Universal child care might help. More of a UBI guy, but I get it. These are all things that we could do. You gotta adjust. Because what do you want to tell us? So, hey, you guys need to stop being happy and do what I want you to do so there's more peoples. I don't know. Let's grow them in a fucking lab then, Ben. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Who gives a shit?
It's why do it at all? This psychological reversal didn't just happen. It took place inside the hurricane of spiritual, cultural, environmental forces swirling around us. But the message from this young cohort is clear. Life is exhausting enough, and the world is broken and burning. Who would want to bring new innocent life into a criminally unequal society situated on a planet with catastrophically rising sea levels? According to a new poll, 39% of Gen Zers are hesitant to procreate for fear of the climate apocalypse, which is just insane, guys. I'm sorry, you're crazy.
I mean, I don't know about apocalypse, but they might be a little scared. But, you kind of before were making fun of people who wanted to stop pollution, so.
A nationally representative study of adults.
No, UBI and universal child care aren't mutually exclusive. No. I'm more of like a what's the next step kind of guy, But I'm not getting into that right now.
Michigan found over a quarter of adults are child-free by choice. So basically, we have decided that all the hallmarks of being an adult, all the hallmarks of adjusting to reality and building a civilization, have been thrown over in favor of a false pursuit of gender identity and hedonism. That
Probably not, right? So I don't think that a quarter of adults are fucking trans in any capacity. What is the statistic? Like fucking less than 5% of people identify as LGBTQ in general. Okay? So like you got fucking quarter of the people like, yeah, I don't want babies or whatever. Or they don't want babies by choice. Whatever. You get my point. What the fuck up, Ben? What are you talking about, dude? It doesn't even make sense. Why is gender at the forefront of our fucking collapsing society in Ben's mind?
That's essentially the trade. The trade is you get to have a good time in the moment and feel morally self-righteous as your civilization dies. By the way, there are other civilizations out there. So you can pretend that our civilization dying is somehow a good thing because of all of our historic excess.
Well, Ben, it sounds like that you're just going to have to start fucking other girls and you're going to have to start impregnating like 20 women. This is the problem. You have such alpha male genetics that you need more wives and you need to create more babies. I mean, if these trans people aren't going to do it, Ben, by your logic, you're going to have to get down deep in some pussy with that fucking alpha male mentality you got there. This is just the additional burden on the true, a masculine male, the true representation of what a man really is, like Ben Shapiro, like staggering 5'4", absolute fucking unit. It sounds like you're going to have to start fucking more girls, dude. There you go. You're going to have to do it to yourself. You have to take the burden on and pass your alpha male genetics on to everybody.
That says, and all the problems with our civilization.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to hate on short men. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry.
Just understand, there are other people out there who are waiting to take over, and they are far.
I'll do it, though. I mean, I'll fucking pass these genetics on. Check this out. Wow. You want a little bit of that? That's a fucking powerful genetics you got right there. I'll pass them on. I know my muscles don't look as big because I have a huge fucking head, but, it's fine.
Far worse than our civilization in virtually every way. But our civilization is now socially suicidal, and this has massive consequences for the future. It means that the economy slows, for example. It means there's no one there to pay the bills. It means that on foreign policy, more people suffer, broadly speaking. It means that growth rates globally come to an end. It means that all the nice things that you think are natural to life start to collapse, because when institutions that created those things collapse, so do the things. Virtually every every Western country is now experiencing massive drops in births. It's happening pretty much everywhere, according to Pew Research. In Italy, Japan, France, Belgium, they're among the nations that have reported sudden drops in births.
Really? Italy? Italy's poor as fuck. Why the fuck aren't they having kids? Oh, maybe it's because they're poor as fuck.
About 9 months after the start of the pandemic compared with the previous year.
Wait, hold on. What did you say?
And they're among the nations that have reported sudden drops in births about 9 months after the start of the pandemic compared with the previous year.
Ben, are you telling me that you're comparing pre-pandemic to post-pandemic or current pandemic? Ben, you want to know what happened during the coronavirus? People lost their jobs, you fucking asshole. What do you think? Why else do you think people stop having kids? People lost their jobs. Yeah, maybe they're afraid of the world, but people fucking lost their jobs. You want people to start like fucking each other at home? It doesn't make sense. Oh, people are more suicidal now. Yeah, maybe it's because they're stuck at home. Ben, what do you want me to tell you? It seems like a weird time to bring this fucking issue up. Maybe next year will be better. We'll be fucking more or something. You know?
Some worry that a baby bust will create societal age imbalances and strain healthcare and retirement systems while also eventually stripping the economy of young workers who tend to drive innovation and growth. Okay, meanwhile, you can tell, by the way, that these have been dying civilizations for a while, considering how many kids are now being born out of wedlock. One of the fundamental institutions of society is marriage. Why? Because it civilizes men. Marriage was designed to civilize men. It was designed to allow women to grow up in intact, to allow children to grow up in intact homes.
Are you telling me that marriage exists to force me to settle down? Listen, I'm all good with marriage. I think it's a good idea to commit to somebody. It makes sense. You know, have babies and then like raise your kids. That makes perfect sense to me, right? I totally am down for it. But you know what? We're also going to have to evolve as a society. If people don't want to get married as much anymore, then we're going to have to figure something else out. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell. It's just how somebody's going to have to innovate a way to figure that fucking shit out.
And therefore have healthy lives and then become productive members of civilization themselves. Marriage was a civilizing institution. We dumped it. We decided that personal self-fulfillment was much more important than giving a kid an actual life with two parents who care about them. Yes, of opposite sexes, because a child does need a mother and a child does need a father.
They just need two figures. I think that they need like a masculine and a feminine figure. I think that balances kids out pretty well. You got the mommy figure you got the daddy figure to beat them down a little bit. You know, you got to have your dad tough on you. Masculine figure, not dad. And then the mommy figure to build them back up. You know what I'm saying? Could be two girls, boys, or exes, two exes. No big deal. But don't date your ex, because if it didn't work the first time, not going to work the second time.
Right now, the share of live births outside marriage in the United States, it's 70% in the black community, it's 40% in the white community.
Oh no! The blacks are going to take over, Ben! Now I understand. Who cares? Who gives a shit? Who fucking cares? Maybe I'm reaching, but it just feels like there's like little sprinkles of like, I'm afraid that white people are going to be the minority in here. You know what I'm saying? Why are you so afraid of that, Ben? Potentially. Why are you so afraid of that, Ben? What makes you so spooked by that? Let's hear it again.
Marriage in the United States, it's 70% in the black community, it's 40% of share of live births outside marriage.
Okay.
In the United States, it's 70% in the black community, it's 40% in the white community. It's true abroad.
What about any other community, like Hispanic, Asian, or Asian? Do you still say Asian? I don't know. Whatever. You get my point. You know, why not? Why just black and white? Like, what's this fucking? Why are we? Why always gotta bring black people into it specifically? You know. I hope you say Asian. What did I say? Did I say Asian? I've been watching too much F is for Family. I think it's a little bit of a racist show, or it shows the racism of the 1970s.
Odd. In France, 60.4% of kids are born outside marriage. This is as of 2018. In Sweden, it's 54.5%. In Denmark, it's 54%. If you think that has no relationship with the number of people who are on social assistance, you're out of your mind. If you think there's a healthy way for society to grow, you're crazy. But it's
interesting because, like, how many of those people are, or how many of those kids that are, you know, whatever outside of marriage, how many of them are in a home, like a one-parent household? I truly wonder that, because maybe people are deciding that you're better off, you know, exploiting the system in some capacity. No, that's why UBI would make everything simpler, right? But no, there's people who might be like, oh, the father might make a lot of money, the mother might make less money, so they might be like, hey, let's pretend that you're a single mom, and then we live together, and blah, blah, blah. Not right. I'm just saying, maybe marriage is a little bit of a dated concept.
Maybe this is a society with a death wish. Maybe this is a society that has decided to sacrifice...
True. Death wish. Gen Z does have a death wish.
Truth, logic, and decency in favor of the notion that we are bad. And we deserve to go this way.
I don't think most people give that much of a shit about that.
After all, we are a scourge on the earth.
That's true.
I think there is a strong reason why.
But I'm okay with that.
When you look at the actual reproduction rates in the United States, they're heavily associated with religion. They're striated by religion. Right now, the only people reproducing above replacement rates in the United States are people who are religious. Period. End of story.
Okay, so you guys are going to have to Mormon it up. Be poly. Have another wife, Ben. You're going to have to repopulate the earth. It's your solemn duty. I'll do it. But Mama God won't let me.
I mean, I'm looking at the rates right now. The fertility rates in the United States by religion. Among Catholics, 2.3. Among Mormons, 3.4. These are above replacement rates. Among Jews, 2.0. And among Orthodox Jews, like 4. Among Protestants, evangelical Protestants, it's 2.3.
Crazy.
And then among atheists, 1.6. Agnostics, 1.3.
Huh.
As a society becomes more secular, as a society decides that the future doesn't matter and starts to undermine its own institutions and starts to embrace fictional nonsense on behalf of the subjective feelings of a few, the society.
Sorry. I want to listen to that again.
As a society becomes more secular, as a society decides that the future doesn't matter and starts to undermine its own institutions and starts to embrace fictional nonsense.
Listen, I'm not. Listen, I'm not. I respect religion, but religion is kind of fictional nonsense, right? Like, where's your proof? I'm just saying. You can't really say like people are embracing fictional nonsense, and then not include religion in that. Let's be honest here. Like, come on, Ben.
That the future doesn't matter and starts to undermine its own institutions and starts to embrace fictional nonsense on behalf of the subjective feelings of a few, the society begins to crumble.
Okay.
It also leads to absurdities like this story.
It sounds more like you want us to be a little bit more fictional. You know, maybe we just need a new religion that's cooler, with a better, father figure. That's not a little bit of a dick. Just being honest with you.
From BBC News. Quote, I've had someone saying they would rather kill me than Hitler, says 24-year-old Jenny. They said they would strangle me with a belt if they were in a room with me and Hitler. That was so bizarrely violent just because I won't have sex with trans women. Jenny is a lesbian woman. She says she is only attracted to women who are biologically female and have vaginas. Okay. She therefore only has sex and relationships with women who are biologically female.
Okay.
Jenny doesn't think this should be controversial, but not everyone agrees. She has been described as transphobic, a genital fetishist, a pervert, and a TERF, a trans-exclusionary radical feminist.
I'm all those things too.
Jenny, who lives in London, says there's a common argument they try and use that goes, what if you met a woman in a bar and she's really beautiful, and you got on really well, and you went home and you discovered she had a penis? Would you just not be interested?
I would suck the fuck out of it.
Yes, because if someone seems sexually attractive at first, you can go off them. I just don't possess the capacity to be sexually attracted to people who are biologically male, regardless of how they identify. According to Carolyn Lowbridge, over at BBC News, I became aware of this particular issue after I wrote an article about sex, lies, and legal consent. Several people got in touch with me to say there was a huge problem for lesbians who are being pressured to accept the idea that a penis can be a female sex organ. I knew this would be a hugely divisive subject, but I wanted to find out how widespread the issue was. Ultimately, it has been difficult to determine the true scale of the problem because there's been little research on the topic.
It's probably not that big of a problem. Like, listen, there are really annoying people, trans and otherwise, that are like, you're transphobic if you won't date a trans person. Let's shut the fuck up. Okay, listen. As long as you will respect trans people, you don't have to date them. I know that's upsetting for trans people, but you're going to have to get over it because you can't force people to have sex with you. That is quite inappropriate. Most people agree with me. Most trans people understand. I don't know what to tell you. You know, it is. I'm not going to say it's not a problem, but I'm saying that like this in the real world, this is like a TikTok problem more than anything else. If you express that you don't want to sleep with a trans person, this is like a fucking online internet child bullshit problem. So.
Only one survey to my knowledge. However, those affected have told me the pressure comes from a minority of trans women as well as activists who are not necessarily trans themselves.
Yeah. See. Yeah. Right.
So apparently, this is now a major issue among lesbians, is that because of the...
Do you like that he just said this?
Active have told me the pressure comes from a minority of trans women as well as activists who are not necessarily trans themselves.
You have a minority of activists that are pushing this rhetoric, right? Like I just said. And then what does he go next with?
So apparently, this is now a major issue among lesbians, is that...
That's a major issue. A minority of activists. This is a major issue. It is an issue, but it's not really a major issue. It's just like a Twitter issue, you know?
Because of the stupidity of suggesting gender fluidity, lesbians are being told that they must have sex with biological men. Because if they don't have sex with biological men, this means that they are apparently straight, because some biological men are women. And the illogic has no bounds. There are no limits to it. None.
I don't think anybody's calling them straight. They're calling them transphobic. I mean, if you're going to push weird rhetoric, at least do it the right way.
And so, as a civilization, would we like to die? Or are we as a civilization going to embrace basic truths that undergird institutions that allow for growth?
Yeah, basic truths like fucking Noah put two of every animal in a fucking ark that he built. That's a basic truth. It's a real thing. Like, you guys have to get over yourself. The Earth was made in a week, idiot. Fucking moron. Basic truth. Like, what the fuck's the matter with you? Dinosaur bones? That's a test from God. These are all basic truths that we really need to put into our head. These are non-fictional basic truths. Like, just what are we doing now? The issue is we need to increase our birth rates, apparently. So why don't we focus on that? Okay? Don't use the word fictional and non-fictional, because it's not really helping your argument.
Those are the choices before us. It's pretty obvious there's a whole group of people in politics who are
And I'm agnostic, by the way. I'm not fucking, but you,
opting for the former rather than the latter, that they are opting for a civilization in decline, because at least we'll have a good time on our way out. Because at least we will feel justified morally in overturning the structural oppressions of reality. Because
listen, bro, you're an advocate for fucking declining society. You're not really talking about the right shit. You're not really talking about emboldening the middle class practically.
reality is full of structural oppressions. Reality is full of inequality. Reality is full of difficulties. So if we just ignore those difficulties, if we restructure society around the idea that we can get rid entirely of reality, then we can put off the nightmares. We can put off having to adjust to civilization. And then, later if the civilization falls apart, I'm pretty sure, well, we did our best. At least we did the moral thing.
At the end of the day, who cares? You know what I'm saying? We'll all die anyway. No. Listen, I'm all for propagating our existence, but Jesus Christ, man. Like, this was a... Come on. Let's focus on the class issue, because it's a much greater issue. Hey, thank you so much for the sub. What does that say, Big Poppy? Fat, juicy, sussy, big, large, humongous man, testicle balls. Okay. Thank you so much, Big Poppy, for the 6-month sub.